Today on In the Wood Yard, we're talking the right size wood for a processor. What size you should get and why. Here we go. So I'm up at my brother Ken's right now. I came up this morning because we're going to be processing this pile of wood. You're going to see that on tomorrow's video. But right now, what I want to talk about is why you want the right size wood. And a lot of people don't realize that you can't just run anything through a processor. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't. I have some experience with processors. I've run a 48C Easton made. I've run the 22MB. I've played around with the Blockbuster quite a bit. We've got it on the other side of the wood pile. I've also played around with brute force. So I've ran a few different processors, played with Dynas. I've run Dynas. So I've played around with them and I kind of know what works good and what doesn't and why you want to use certain size wood. So when you order wood for a processor, you're going to be way money ahead buying good wood. There are guys that will only run bolts, and the reason they run the bolts through wood is because everything runs better. You can process stuff much faster and easier if you use the right size wood. Now, if you're getting tree service wood and you're getting big monster, 24-inch, 30-inch stuff, you're not going to run that through a processor. I mean, you might be able to run some of it, but you're probably not going to be able to run all of it. And you're going to have to do some stuff either manually by cutting it into rounds and then ripping it, or maybe have a skid steer splitter where you can break stuff down. But production wise, you're much better off getting the right size wood. And this happens to be the right size wood behind me. Now, this is not bolts. I mean, there might be some bolts in here, but this is the size stuff that you can run through a processor and actually make production. Like I said, you don't want the really big stuff, but you also don't want little bitty stuff. Now, there is some little bitty stuff in here. Once you get down to stuff that's 2 and 3 inches, you can't make much production that way either, because they're so small that what happens is you're not actually making wood very fast. You're not doing multiple cords per hour. With a processor, you want to run stuff that's the right size and the right size for that particular processor. So, no, behind me, Kenny just started it up. There is a 48C back there, Easton made, that is owned by Ed Rurup. He's our buddy. He's going to come today and we're going to process this wood, but you're going to see that tomorrow. But right now, what I want to do is kind of go over the size of wood that's going to be the best for you to run. And that doesn't matter if you're running just a splitter or a processor. The size wood you want is the size wood that you can handle well, that's the right size for your machine. Now, if you've got a big machine like a 22MB or a 48C or a 60C or a big machine that's got a big circle saw, a 48 or a 60-inch circle saw, yeah, you can produce some 30-inch stuff and you can make a lot of wood fast, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's best for what you're going to be doing. You're going to want stuff that you can handle. Now, there are guys that don't have a processor that will only do wood by hand cutting and then running in a splitter. But if you've got stuff that's 24 inches and above, the 28, the 30-inch, the 36-inch stuff, they're so big, they're hard to handle. And yeah, you get a lot of wood from them. Those big rounds, they get a lot of pieces from, but you got to move them somehow. You got to handle them. You got to be able to get them either to your splitter, or you got to get the splitter to the wood. And by having the wood so big that you've got to manhandle it, rip it down, quarter it up, whatever it is, just so you can handle it, your production goes way down. I have found I make more money faster with the right size wood. So if you can get a wood from a supplier and you can get the stuff like you see behind me here, the 8, the 10, the 12, 14, 16-inch stuff, that is the wood that's the best for production. You can actually get a lot of wood made fast if it's the right size. Now, if it's really small stuff, that'll slow you down too, because you're cutting little bitty pieces and all you're doing is cutting it and then splitting it in half, and you don't actually make a lot of wood fast. The splitter that we're going to be using today, you're going to see on tomorrow's video, is a Blockbuster 1412, and we're going to be running the small stuff, the stuff that's, this size and this size through that. And then the bigger stuff, the stuff that's the 8, the 10, the 12 inch is going to be run on the Easton made, because it's a bigger machine. It can actually cut it faster. It can split it faster. So that's what we're going to be doing. Now, like I said, on a big machine, you can make bigger wood smaller, faster. And on a small machine, you can actually process the wood a little faster almost than you can a big machine, because the big machine a lot of times is not splitting it well. So I'm going to show you some video at the end of this that you're going to see the stuff going through the processor that we're going to be using. You're going to see on tomorrow's video also. So I'm going to kind of bring you over right now, and we're going to show you some of these pieces and what we've got here. So for myself and for my brother Ken, this is the size wood you want to end up with. I like this size stuff right here, you know, 3x3, 2x3, 2x4, that kind of thickness, that size, or you know, a 3x5, 3x6 at the most. Once they get to be a little bigger, they're a little problematic for a lot of people, because I am not selling boiler wood for the most part. This wood that you see in here is not boiler wood. This is like furnace wood or fireplace wood. So the size of it, anybody can handle it. My rule of thumb is if you can pick it up with one hand, or the lady of the house or even your kids can pick up the wood and handle it, it's the right size for most people. Now I know there's going to be people that sell boiler wood. They're like, oh, those are toothpicks. Those are little bitty wood. That's baby wood. Yeah, but that's what people want. That's what they pay for. They're willing to pay more money for stuff they can handle. Now I'm going to walk over here to another pile that we split. I don't know, you guys probably saw it a week or so ago, maybe more than that. This is Kenny's cedar pile right here that you're seeing. And in the cedar pile, he sells this mainly for kindling. People that stop and buy bundle wood from him, there's a whole semi-load here. This is the size that's almost too big for kindling. He wants it even smaller than this. So like I was talking to my brother Ken, see if I can find one here that's the right size even. Right here, this is the right size. This size. He wants this size because that's what people want for kindling, that they buy in bundles for their wood boilers or for their furnaces. They want stuff that's like, this is getting a little big. I mean, it's not terrible, but this is more about what they want right here, this size, because they're buying it for kindling, and that's what this is all for. And for campfire wood, which is what a lot of this is sold for, this stuff is a nice size. And this is the size my customers want. About this size to maybe about this size right here. So it's like a half a log. So that was like a 6-incher that was just cut in half. So that's the size a lot of my people want, if they can pick it up with one hand. So the wood that you see here is from a truckload that Kenny just got yesterday. He called me last night and said, hey, I got my load of wood. Come help me process. so that I'm here today. And the main video I want to do, you're going to see tomorrow, we're going to process this whole pile. Like I said, we've got a 48C. I'll walk over here so you can see it. Kenny just started it up. Ad Roberts 48C, we've run that before. And then the Blockbuster's right over there. And that's the pile of wood. That's a semi-load that you see at the end over there. We processed that a few days ago. But today we're going to do this load. And I thought before we start, I want to talk about the right size wood. So if you're cutting by hand, this stuff is awesome. So that first pile that I showed you over on the other side of the truck here, that wood right there was cut 2 years ago. Bert and Adam and I and Kenny, we processed that in basically a day. It was 2 half days. And there was a full truckload here, and Kenny sold most of it. So that's all that's left is a couple full cords there. But that's the size stuff that was made from this wood. Pretty much the same size. So as you can see here, if you're looking, there's little bitty ones like this one right here. That's about a 3-incher. That's about as small as they get. Most guys won't process much smaller than right here. That's about a 3-incher. But to me, the ideal size stuff for the Blockbuster that I have, the 1412 plus is right over there, you can see it, is stuff that's about 8 inches. And if you take your hand and you go finger to thumb, it's about 7 to 8 inches. This stuff right here, that is awesome to go through because you split it into 4s, done. Then you get to the little bigger stuff, like right here. So this one right here is about a 14-incher because I got about my wingspan on my glove here is about 9 to 10 inches. So you got an extra 4 here. So the 14, 15-inch stuff is nice too because you get 8 splits out of that. You run that right through the middle. This one here is a nice size one. So this one right here is about a 10-incher. So to me, 10 to about, this is about a 12-incher right here. These are ideal sizes. So 10 to 12 is just beautiful. This is about an 8. So you get about an 8, a 10, a 12. Those all work out really nice as far as splitting. And when you get to the ones, like see if I can find a bigger one here. I don't think there's too many, but this one right here is about an 8-incher. This one right here is probably about a 14. We got one over here that's probably like about it's at least a 16, so that's 9, and then another 9 is 18. So anything from 16 to 18 inches is really good as far as running through the processors, because you can make that into 8 ways. And you can always flip it around and then do a resplit on that. But the stuff that I really like is this size right here, about 8 to 10 inches. Really nice. Here's one right here that's about a 10 incher. This stuff right here is just beautiful to run through the machine, because you can get, your either 4 if you want, divided into 4, so you get a little bigger chunks, or even 8 out of that is really nice. So that's what works really good. So now we're gonna get started on splitting. You're gonna, like I said, you're gonna see that video tomorrow. But right now, I'm gonna show you at the end here, and I'll do a narration over the top of it, some of the footage that you're gonna see tomorrow, because we're gonna do this whole pile in one day. We'll get this done in probably like 4 hours. And what we're gonna do is I will take some footage from that and put it at the end of this, and I'll do some narration showing you the pieces as they go through the processor and how nice the sizes are, because we picked the right size pieces that you're gonna see. So here we go, it's time to get some work done. So I picked out some footage that we did. You're gonna see the whole video tomorrow of some of the stuff that stands out to me that I wanna show you. So here's some smaller wood, obviously being run on the smaller processor. What's nice is it's got a smaller chamber, so you can get more exact splits. It drops in there better. So this is probably like, I don't know, a 4 or 5 inch piece. And the small stuff works fantastic on the small splitter. But you can also do stuff all the way up to 20 inches. It's just that the big machine does not do good on small stuff. The splitting chamber's too wide, the wedge is too big. It's got so much power that it generally just crushes it, or it doesn't split it at all. But you'll see that coming up. So here you can see this being run through, and you can see the pieces that are coming out of the wedge there don't need resplitting. They're good just as they are. They aim better to go through the wedge. And you probably notice this wedge floats. It's so that it can clear itself out, which is a very unique thing to the Blockbuster. Most of the other processors I've used, like the Easton made, when you get a piece wedged in there, you got to get in there, crawl in there, and hammer it out. Here you can see little bitty pieces going through that aren't even getting split, which is pretty common with a big processor, which is why you want bigger wood. It's kind of a waste of the machine's capability when you're not even, I mean, it's cutting the pieces, but they're going through without even getting split. So really, you don't want small stuff with a big splitter, a big processor. You want the right size wood. You're going to want stuff that's at least 8 inches up to 20, 22, whatever it can take. But the sweet spot, I think, for a bigger processor is like 12 to 18 inches. So, but a lot of this stuff here is pretty small. You can see that maybe 6 inches, something like that. But as it's going through, the stuff will fall through like that. Doesn't even get split because there's all that gap there. And if you were to lower the wedges down, you would get little bitty slivers. This is the other problem with a big processor, especially with a fixed wedge. You can jam stuff in so easily. It happens all the time. It slows your production way down. So again, you want good wood. This was obviously not a good piece, but that's where you almost got to have someone to help you clear it out, or you got to crawl out of the machine, go down there and pull it out, spin stuff around. You can't eject it. You can't. It's just really tough with big, nasty wood, especially if you get knots, crotches, or odd cuts that go in crooked. Here's what you want. You want the straight, perfect, beautiful bolts. That's probably like about a 14 or 16 incher. You can see. You can make time with this. Watch when this goes through the wedge here. Look at, I mean, that's a beautiful sight when you get pieces like that going through. Nice splits, nice and even. So that's the size you want for the bigger ones. But then when you get to the end here, the nasty cut, not that one, the one that's coming up here, it just doesn't want to work because it doesn't fall into the chamber properly. So if you can buy or cut really good wood, that's what processors like. Telephone poles, utility poles, log cabin poles, that's the stuff they like. When you get odd pieces, it just slows everything down. It's hard to get it to run through. You got to fight it. The other thing with a big processor is you're kind of usually up in a booth or you're up on a platform, even if it's an open station, and you're kind of like a hostage in there. You can't really do much. I mean, yeah, you got to pick a rune, but you almost got to have a second guy to do this kind of stuff because it just doesn't work well when you can't get at the wood, because firewood, or logs, or trees I should say, are very imperfect. They're going to be crooked. They're going to be crotchy. They're going to be lumpy. They're going to be curvy. They're going to have sweep to them. So that's why there's a lot of the stuff that you just eject out because it's not worth the time. Here you can see this one get dropped in. And if I remember right, I think it doesn't work at all. I think it just gets ejected. And it's an odd piece that you really can't do much with. And when they get to be that size, that's a very scary place to be. You're about 3 feet away from death. So you just eject them out, and then you got to deal with it later. So whereas a small processor, you can reach in, spin it around, do the work, what you got to do. This is what you want, this size stuff right here, because it just works well. You can see the size of it coming out. Again, you've got some rot in this one, not a good piece of wood. So you're going to get a lot of crushing as you see a lot of that stuff get shredded. But nice size splits in general. But yeah, when you get rotten wood, it's just bad. You're going to get lots of debris. A lot of that needs to be resplit for what most people would want, my customers anyway, but for boiler wood it would be good. Now the smaller stuff like you see here going through the Blockbuster 1412, perfect size stuff for a little bitty processor. A big difference that a lot of people don't realize with this processor, the base price on this is like $32,000 or $33,000. And yeah, it doesn't have a booth. Yeah, you don't have air conditioning. Yeah, it's not as fast, but it's $32,000 or $33,000. The Easton made that you saw running a little earlier with the booth, the big boy, the 48C, it's close to a couple $100,000. It's out of reach for most guys. Most people that have a individual that's processing wood for themselves or for say a couple buddies, a couple neighbors, this is much more doable. So for 1/6 the cost, you can have a processor, and this will take all the way up to 20-inch pieces. But you can also handle the small stuff, and they get split when they fall in the chamber. So nice size wood for this is, I think, anywhere from 6 to about 12 inches. Really the same as a big processor. You don't want anything much smaller than 6 inches. This right here is probably like about a 5-incher, but they're all nice splits. I mean, that's not going to need any resplitting, whereas with the 48C, when you get big wood and real small wood, you got to do resplits because the little stuff doesn't get split because it just slides right around the wedge. And with the big stuff, you're going to have bigger chunks than probably what you want, like that one that just fell there. You're getting big nasties like that because it just didn't get split. You also get a lot more trash with a bigger processor because you've got a bigger, thicker, wider wedge, more cutting knives, lots more pressure. You have much more control with a smaller machine. That's my experience anyway. But a lot of this little stuff here, a lot of guys wouldn't even waste time on it. But if you're cutting your own wood and you don't want to just throw the wood out, it's nice to process the stuff all the way down to 3 inches. Now here Kenny's loading on some pieces that are probably a nice size for any processor. That's probably like 8-inch stuff there. Real nice size because you can make wood fairly fast. You're going to get decent splits. It's easier to handle. There's a big one there and a little bitty one in between there. The big ones you can make more wood. Now here where we first started, this is a nice size piece. I put this in there just to show you. You're getting good splits there. Look at how nice that is. Now that's done wood. You don't need to do anything with it. But if you get much bigger, when you get up to that 18, 20, 22-inch stuff, you're going to have some resplits if you're processing wood that you're trying to sell, or if you want wood that's just manageable. But you get big pieces and you're going to get some bigger splits. Here you can see that's a nice size piece. Again, that's probably about like 8-inch stuff there. Really nice straight wood. The straighter the better. You don't want crooked, we call them snakes or bananas. But again, here the wedge need to be dropped down a little bit because a lot of that's going to need to be resplit because you're getting just a sliver of like that one there. Both of those laying right there are going to need to be resplit. And again, if you drop the wedge down, sometimes you're going to get little slivers off the corners and then one piece. There, that was a better split there. Here's another one. I think that's a better split. See how you got 4 pieces, you're using the bottom half of the wedge there. And that's something that's hard to do with a big processor. You got to watch it pretty close. And if you get a fixed wedge, you get pieces underneath. You can't even lower it down. You have to clear it out first. Whereas if you get a floating wedge, like what is on the Blockbuster, you can clear it out. You can shove some pieces through and clear it out. Now here's an example of some nasty wood. It's kind of crotchy, kind of got some knots in it, and it just kind of crushes it. And that's an unfortunate thing with a big processor. It just rams the wood through, and you're going to get all kinds of stuff. Lots more debris, lots more chaff, lots more junk that you're going to produce. But you can produce wood way faster, and you can produce bigger chunks. Now, that's the one thing I don't like about a booth is you kind of really can't get at the wood. Even when I had the 22 MB, it was hard to get at stuff because you're separated from the splitting chamber. I really like being close to the chamber so you can reach in and you can fix stuff, because wood is so imperfect, you're going to have problems. It's just the way it is. Now here you got a nice piece of wood here. You can see the size of this. That's nice. That's the kind of stuff you like right there, because you can make decent wood pretty darn fast. Oh, but then it turns ugly. It turns ugly. It's the bottom of the flare of the butt, so it'd cut a chunk off, and then the next one coming through I think is really ugly. But that's about all you can do is, you know, just cut the junk off, and then you get stuff like that. But it's not going to be pretty wood no matter what you do. That's where if you have a small splitter and you're using a single wedge, you can make the wood much prettier. But if you want to make volume, if you want speed, if you're producing a lot of wood, ooh, that one stood right up there, just ram it through. That's the other thing about a big processor. Sometimes the wood will stand up on you, like that one did a while ago, and you just crush it. Just ram it through. But in the long run, it's kind of worth it because you're getting more wood done faster. It's just the way it is. You're going to have more junk. You're going to produce more junk. And if you've got a wood boiler, or if you can burn that stuff somehow, that's great. Here you can see it's just getting the same. Oh, it's got a little bit extra split there. So the wood's getting a little smaller here, and you're getting the less splitting. So there's just a single split there. And there's a small one again here, single split. Once you get smaller than that, they'll turn left or right, the rounds as they're dropped into the chamber, and you'll get no split. That happens quite often. That's more appropriate. Now here you're going to have a nice bunch of wood coming out of this when you lower the wedge down, and still going to have to do some re-splits on that because there's some stuff there that's a little bigger. Unless it's boiler wood, then you're fine. Camera got hit there. A piece came flying at me. It's such a violent place to be. I can't even tell you what it's like. There's just a lot of noise, and a lot of stuff is happening. There pieces are flying out, so it's not a safe place to be either, which is why I have my camera on a longer stick. It's like 4 feet long, so I'm actually quite a ways away from the action here with holding the camera. But you can see the pieces getting rammed through here. Bigger chunks, obviously there's going to be some re-splitting on there for what Kenny wants, what I want. Here's the pile of wood. There's two truckloads. You're going to see that all be processed tomorrow. Kenny had to climb up there because it jammed on us a couple times because we have 2 semi-loads. So there's 28 full cords in that pile. So he's up there clearing it out. Tomorrow, you're going to see the whole production. Come on back.